So, good evening to all. Myself, Dr. Anil Dixit. I will present today geotextile testing. So, good evening to all. Today, I will share the testing and evaluation methods of geotextile. See, what is the need of geotextile testing? It depends on the purpose of the geotextile are being used, like for the quality control purpose during production or during construction. So based on the specification, the testing need arises. Then to assess the suitability of a given application, suppose there are different applications like filtration, reinforcement and all that, which you might be aware earlier. So depending upon the suitability of a given application, the particular kind of testing need arises. Then comparison of products for selection purposes. Suppose different manufacturers.
Anil,
sir, good evening.
You have to go through. Good evening. This is already done, hai na? You start with testing with geotextiles directly.
Okay.
I mentioned, hai na?
Okay.
After the O90 and everything is covered, hai na? iOS.
Okay. So from here I will start.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. So the rest of the tests are like tensile strength test is very important test. This can be conducted by narrow strip method or wide width strip method. Then cross plane permeability, which is also known as permittivity. Then in plane permeability, which is known as transmittivity. Then we will discuss static puncture strength, which is also called CBR push through. Then dynamic perforation test, also known as cone drop test. Then index puncture resistance, trapezoidal tear strength, UV resistance, and hydrolysis degradation. So we'll discuss in detail in next slides. This is a universal testing machine having a load cell and roller grip, which is used for specifically for the geogrips. For geotextile, there should be flat grips. These are the clamps, and this is display unit. This is the display unit showing the data acquisition system. It shows the curves between stress and strain. So it is a data acquisition system which shows different load versus elongation curves depending upon the type of samples. Now we'll discuss all these tests in detail. First one, tensile strength by narrow strip tensile strength test as per ASTM D5035. Basically, the narrow strip, tensile and wide strip have a different sample sizes as the name denotes. And under this, both the tests, the apparatus uses based on which you are going to conduct the test, like ISO, ASTM, or Indian standards. So here, as per ASTM D5035, the speed rate should be 300 plus minus 10 mm per minute. The clamps are flat one for the geotextile. These are the two samples, rival specimen for the woven kind of geotextile and cut specimen are known for the non-woven. This L capital is the full length of the samples. I will discuss, you have already discussed that kind of samples we are selecting. L is the full length which is coming in the jaw as well as the gauge length. And small m shows the gauge length. B is the width of the samples which we have to cut from the lot. Like this table shows, as per ASTM requirement, what are the sizes of the woven and non-woven samples. Length, like total specimen length should be fixed like 150 mm. Then gauge length also same in both the cases, like 75 mm. Then width of the test varies. In the case of woven, it varies 35 or 25 plus 20 yarns. And in case of smaller width like 25 mm, for larger width like 50 mm, it varies, the width of test specimen varies from 65 or 50 mm plus 20 yarns. Then width of the test specimen is 25 or 50 mm as per the requirement of the product. Next is tensile strength based on wide width method as per ASTM D4595 and IS 16635. The rate of strain varies depending upon the methodology as per the different codes. Like as per IS code, it should be 20 plus minus 5% per minute. Then as per ASTM, it should be 10 plus minus 3% per minute. The sampling of the specimen size in case of non-movement, it is 200 mm by 200 mm. And move-on case, it should be 210 mm by 210 mm. This is the photo, shows how the width of the specimen calculated. Like for the jaw part, we have to take 50 mm length of the specimen. Then for the gauge length, we have to consider specimen length 100 mm. This is the actual photograph on the right hand side. This kind of grips is used, which is flat, which padded jaws, so that the failure should not be occur from the jaws. This is a typical stress strain curve shown in during the testing of the geotextile. This is on the right hand side. This is the actual sample failure, which is taken place diagonally. We should be very much careful while testing that the sample should not fail from the edge of the jaws, or it should not be slip. If it is this way, slipping or failing from the jaw, nearby jaw, then we have to discard the test and we have to retest again. Next is the permeability. Permeability means there are two types of permeability: cross plane and in plane. The cross plane permeability is known as permittivity also. As per test procedure ASTM D4991 and IS 14324 and ISO, these are the test procedure methodology based on the international codes, and Indian codes are also there. So the object of our test is to know to determine how much water is being passing through the cross plane of the geotextile. The test method covers procedure for determining hydraulic conductivity in terms of permittivity. This can be performed by constant head method as well as falling head method. Number of samples to be tested are 4, and the apparatus is like this one. This is a total system in which we have to fill the water, de-air water from the tank, overhead tank. Then it passes through here, and we have to put our samples here. And then how much water passes through perpendicular plane of the samples, we have to collect that water and we have to note the time. Simple method is there. Before that, the specimen should be saturated for 12 hours, and then it should be placed in the apparatus. And apparatus is filled with de-aired water. We have to be very much careful about de-airing the water. We have to maintain the head difference of 70 mm across the specimen. Then we have to measure the water flow to the perpendicular plane of the sample, and the flow of water should be so adjusted that the head loss is always maintained at 50 plus minus 1 mm. Then after head becomes steady for a minimum 30 seconds, then water is collected in the measuring jar for a fixed period of time. We have to maintain the test temperature of water as per the codal provisions, and then we have to repeat the test for 4 other different head losses, which are 60 mm, 50 mm, 40 mm, 30 mm as per ISO. If we are following STM, then test is conducted at head of 50 mm only. So depending upon the methods or standards, we have to follow the test procedures. This is the formula to calculate the permittivity, represented by Y using the equation QRT divided by HAT. H is the head of the water maintained. As per ASTM, you have to have maintain 50 mm head, but as per ISO, you have to maintain 4 different heads. So A is the cross-sectional area and T is the time collected for the water through the specimen in the jar. RT is the temperature correction factor. If your temperature varies as per the standard, then you have to apply this correction factor. If you are maintaining that temperature in the laboratory, then there is no need of temperature correction factor. These are the main precautions which we have to keep in mind while testing. Like volume of water to be collected should be at least 1000 cubic centimeter, and the time of collection should be minimum of 30 seconds. Head, as per ASTM, we have to maintain 50 mm throughout the test, and we have to keep our water de-aired, free from air bubbles. Hence, special care need to be taken to maintain this presence of air bubbles. And then we have to prepare the report by, on the 4 tests, taking the average of 4 tests, the average permittivity for the individual specimen tested should be reported. Actually, the reporting is very important. We will discuss in other tests also. If you are not reporting as per the codal provisions, then definitely there will be problem. Next is in-plane permeability. It is also called transmittivity. This test is this procedure is as per ASTM D4716. This test is performed at different gradients of 0.25, 0.5, and 1. Then normal pressure is applied on the sample. Equipment is like this. This is our load cell through which we have to apply our vertical load. This tank consists of different kind of layers of like samples, then putting a porcelain sheets and layer on that of this size, and then you have to apply the load. Water head is maintained, temperature is to be maintained, which comes through here, and then it passes through in plane of the geotextile. So after coming through this, water comes in here, and then we have to collect through this in the jar. So we have to, again, the same procedure, we have to collect the water at a particular time. We have to maintain the, we have to record the time and the volume of the water during that time, which we have measured. The minimum size of sample is 300 mm by 300 mm, and as I already told you, geotextile should be sandwiched between 2 thick rubber sheets to prevent any leakage. This is the formula for calculation purpose of constant head test in plane permeability. Here we have to determine the rate of flow in meter cube per second. Then Kp is in plane permeability coefficient, which we have to calculate. We have to maintain the gradient of flow, delta H upon L. Delta is height difference and L is the length of the sample. Width of sample is 300 mm, and thickness of sample we have to measure. Transmittivity is calculated by representing theta in terms of meter square per second. The next test is static puncture resistance. This is CVR push-through test. As per ASTM D6241 or ISO 12236 are the codes which are shows the methodology for CVR push-through test. The object of this test is a test specimen of 150 mm of internal dia is clamped without tension between circular plates and secured in a compression testing machine like on the same UTM. Then a force is applied on the geotextile through a steel plunger of 50 mm dia. Whatever maximum force required to puncture it, that is the CVR push-through value. Basically, see in this is 50 mm dia sample. We have to clamp, we have to cut the more width of the sample so that internal dia of 50 mm is maintained. This is the plunger of 50 mm dia. Then sample is clamped between 2 steel plates, and a particular rate we have to push through vertically downward this plunger, and at which load it passes through it bursts. So that is the value which we want, breaking force. The number of specimens required for this test is minimum 5, and that the conditioning is very important for all the tests. Depending upon different codal provisions, we have to maintain the conditioning of the specimen till moisture equilibrium is obtained. Like in this test, as per ASTM, we have to maintain the temperature 21 plus minus 2 degrees centigrade, as well as humidity 50 to 70%. And speed is 50 mm per minute. Means the speed of the plunger should be maintain it as 50 mm per minute. But as per ISO, the temperature requirement is different. It should be 27 plus minus 2 instead of 21. And humidity is also different. We have to maintain 65 plus minus 2. So we have to make arrangement of like air conditioning system and humidifier kind of equipments in the room where this test is being performed to maintain this temperature as well as humidity. Now we have to report the average puncture strength in Newton at which the sample breaks, as well as how much displacement takes place for breaking this temperature, for puncturing this sample. This is the schematic arrangement of the specimen. Next test is dynamic perforation test, which is also known as cone drop test. The object of this test is to measure the resistance of geotextile to the penetration by a steel cone dropped from a height. The test procedure follows for this as ISO 13433 or BS EN standard 12236. Basically, the purpose of this test, while laying your geotextile in the field, some conical kind of things like aggregate should not be able to puncture it or should not be able to damage it. So these tests are just to check the suitability of the specimen for the particular type of application in the field. This is a photograph of test equipment. Like falling cone is there. It has a particular size and the markings are already done to know that how much displacement takes place when it punctures the specimen. This was the apparatus in which the internal dia of ring was 150 mm plus minus 2 mm, and the height of the frame which support the clamped specimen and the falling height is 500 plus minus 2 mm. See, the margin is given only plus minus 2 mm. So we have to verify our equipment for the specification whether it is complying or not. So before performing your test in the laboratory on particular equipment, we have to internally verify our specification of the equipment, whether height is okay as per codal provisions or not. Weight is okay. Angle of the steel cone should be 45, whether it is okay or not. It should not be 46, it should not be 43. So all these internal verification is very much required before performing any test on any equipments. Then this is called internal calibration of the equipments. Then we have to apply a smooth polished surface in a mass of 1000 plus minus 5 gram. Plus minus 5 gram means it should not be more than either plus 5 gram or minus 5 gram, means 950 to 1005 gram weight. Only permissible variation is required. This much of variation is required, otherwise your mass is not correct, so you have to change it. So these kind of minute things you have to keep in mind while performing the test. You have to maintain the specifications of the equipment, specification of the accessories. We have to maintain the temperature. We have to maintain the humidity requirements as per the codal provisions. Now, the minimum test specimen for this test of 200 mm dia are 10. It cannot be 8, it cannot be 11, it cannot be 12. As per codal provisions, whatever number specified, we have to take those specimen numbers. Again, the conditioning as per the codal provisions, in this case is 20 plus minus 2 temperature requirement, as well as humidity is requirement of 65 plus minus 5. Means either the humidity should be between 60 to 70%. It should not be less than 60, it should not be more than 70%. Then again, reporting is the mean hole dia. When we fall this conical cone, particular height of 500 mm, then how much the whole dia is being maintained by this puncturing. So we have to maintain that, we have to calculate that diameter in millimeters with the accuracy of 1 mm only. So the marking on this specimen are already given. So we have to check whether this is equidistance or not. So this kind of internal verification are always required. Next is index puncture resistance test. This test is used to measure the index puncture resistance of geotextile, geomembranes, and other products. The same test is performed on other products like geomembrane also. The test procedure is as per ASTM D4833. Apparatus again UTM machine, and there is a clamp of internal dia of 45 mm, a solid steel rod of diameter 8 plus minus 0.1 mm. See, the variation, permissible variation is only 0.1 mm with the 8 mm diameter. Having a flat end with a 45-degree angle as well as 0.8 mm chamfered test edge. See, this is the dia and chamfered edge. So we have to maintain this kind of accuracy in the equipments as well as accessories. So this chamfer, we have to check dia as well as chamfering. We have to check whether that is there or not, a particular 45-degree angle. So now sampling, minimum 5 samples are required of 100 mm dia for this test. Again, temperature conditions should be 21 plus minus 2 and humidity requirement is 65 plus minus 5. The rate of speed for this test is 300 mm plus minus 10 mm per minute. The value of the load reports in average of test results on the 5 minimum samples in terms of Newton. Next is horizontal tear test as per ASTM D4533. This test is to ascertain construction survivability while putting our geotextile in the field during construction. It should not be damaged while putting in use of different construction materials like aggregates, bituminous material and all that. So to check its survivability, we have to perform this trapezoidal tear test. Initially, a small cut is given in the sample like this. This is the sample size. This dotted mark are the shown where grips along these edges. We have to keep our grips in that. And this is the mark cut, initial cut we have to put. The width of the sample is 100 mm at the top and 25 at the bottom. Vertical width of the sample is 76 mm. And then width, which is the grip of the width. Our grip width should be 76 mm only. And the rate of loading is 300 mm per minute. And this initial gap should be 25 mm only. Total gauge length is 200 mm of the sample. So initially a small cut is given in the sample at the bottom and the force is applied. So the force at which required to tear the sample is measured, and force is applied on the sample in such a way that the initial tear is opened up. Then again the reporting of average of the test results in terms of Newton only. This is the formula to calculate the tensile strength under this test. Like FF is the observed breaking force at which it opens up the tier 4, the tier 1, and then C is the factors which gives the minimum number of tensile elements within 1 meter width of the geogrid. Actually, this is for the geogrid. Similar way we can apply for the geotextile also. This is the durability test to resist the ultraviolet resistance of the geotextile by two different methods as per ASTM D4355 as well as per ASTM D7238. As per ASTM D4355, we have to use the exposure xenon arc light for the UV resistance, as well as for the another test we have to use fluorescent light as per ASTM D7238. Both these equipments produce UV spectra light in different frequency in which the predominant degradation happens. These are the ranges, like in case of A type of ultraviolet, the ranges varies from 400 to 315 mm, and then for B type of UV, 315 to 280 nm varies. The percentage retention should be, basically what happens, we have to take a sample for the tensile strength purpose, we have to take the basic sample, we have to perform the tensile strength test on that. Then we have to put the samples on this equipment like for xenon arc or fluorescent light exposure. Then for 500 hours. Then after 500 hours, we have to again reconduct the tensile strength. How much reduction in the tensile strength after the exposure of samples up to 500 hours in both the equipments? Then what is the difference? Reduction in the strength that matters. Like for a good geotextile material, it should have more than 85% strength retained after 500 hours of exposure. Means the strength should not be reduced by more than 15% after 500 hours exposure of the UV rays in the xenon arc or fluorescent light as per different ASTM methods. So we have to be very sure that our sample is passed if it retains strength, means tensile strength more than 85% of the original samples. So this test will give an indication of the durability of the specimen in adverse condition when our sample is exposed to sun, direct sunlight, or some any field where UV rays are directly affecting our sample. So in that way, this test is very much mandatory, and we have to see our reduction should not be more than 15%. This is again durability test of hydrolysis degradation, in which some polyc material are affected severely due to hydrolysis action. Under this, we have to see whether pH value, when the exposure condition are high pH like more than 10 or very low pH less than 3, then it should not be damaged. And because the basic material of the geotextile like polyester, resin, or whatever be it, should have a high molecular weight more than 25,000, as well as low carboxyl and group, which is also known as CEG concentration, should be less than 30. So by this method, we have to check these two parameters, that high molecular weight should be retained. It should be more than 25,000, as well as it should be low carboxyl and group after concentration after exposure of the hydrolysis action. So we have to check based on the pH values, high as well as low, and based on the higher molecular weight as well as low carboxyl and group concentration, we can see our degradation of the geotextile based on hydrolysis. So these are the parameters to check the degradation based on the hydrolysis. Now, other important properties which have to be judged depending upon the uses of the geotextile in the site, like where abrasion resistance is required. So this test is very important. Another is melting point. When we are using a geotextile in the bituminous pavements, then the temperature, laying temperature is more than 180 degree, then melting point comes into picture. And asphalt retention. Suppose we want to put a coating of geotextile, non-woven kind of geotextile with the asphalt coating, bituminous coating, and we want to put in the pavement for the as an impervious layer in the different layers of the pavement at bituminous interface of the BT as well as WMM. So where asphalt retention test is important. So what are these tests? We'll discuss in detail now. Now, abrasion resistance, where in the field we are abrading the sample, means wearing away the part of material due to rubbing against another surface. So this test is important in that case. So how we have to check it? Degradation in the strength and material loss is determined by performing this test by rubbing rough and hard surfaces in the laboratory. So abrasion test is especially important like in railway track applications or some pavement applications also. Here, our equipment consists of a rotary kind of platform with a double head fitted with 100,000 gram vitrified abrasion wheels, having a specific kind of vitrified abrasion coating over that wheels to perform this test. A geotextile in the form of disc is cut down with 90 mm outer dia and 60 mm inner dia, which the sample of the geotextile to be keep in the between the wheels of the vitrified abrasion wheels, and we have to perform 1,000 cycles of rotation, and then strip tensile test. After the 1,000 cycles, we have to perform the strip tensile test on these samples, on the abraded samples. Then we have to check what is the reduction in the strength after the exposure of 1000 cycles of rotation, and this the ratio is expressed in terms of the abrasion resistance. Like typical loss of tensile strength is about 40% after 1000 abrasion cycles. So we have to check loss in weight is also reported after the abrasion test is performed. So the purpose of test after reduction, how much strength is reduced after exposing 1000 cycles under the 1000 gram vitrified abrasion wheels. So this reduction is very important to check the abrasion resistance of the particular sample. Next is melting point is determined for the paving kind of geotextile, where it is used in the flexible pavements, bituminous pavements, where hot asphalt is used during construction of having laying temperatures more than 180 degrees centigrade. So we have to check whether our geotextile is undergoing some structural changes after exposing to that much of high temperature while laying in the field. So we have to expose it to the excessive heat during the testing to simulate the field condition. So we have to check the temperature at which the fiber melts in the laboratory. By differential scanning calorimeter, we can determine the melting point of the polymer. Polymer is the basic material of which the geotextile is being manufactured. So the point at which it melts is called the thermal transition point. So we have to note down that point at which it melts. It should not be less than the laying temperature of the bitumen, like more than 180 degrees centigrade and all that. Next is the asphalt retention, which is again test as per ASTM D6140. And when geotextile are coated with the bitumen and used in the pavements, it is also called paving fabrics. This test determines how well the geotextile can bond with the asphalt geotextile samples of 100 mm by 200 mm size. Basically, we have to submerge our virgin geotextile in the bitumen at 135 plus minus 2 degrees centigrade for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes of the submergence, we bring out our samples and hung it in the same oven for 30 minutes from one end, and then after 30 minutes from other end. So it means from both the end we have to keep these samples hung in this saturated specimen hung in the oven for 30 minutes. Then test specimen are cooled for 30 minutes and take the weight of the samples nearest to 0.1 gram. The difference in the saturated weight and the original weight divided by the area of the samples will the asphalt retention value. So how much asphalt retained under different temperature conditions and cooling conditions. So that way this asphalt retention value is important. These are the material specifications normally provided by the manufacturers for different kind of geotextile. Like these are the important properties: grab tensile strength in machine direction and cross machine direction, percentage elongation, then tensile strength based on wide width as well as trapezoidal tear strength, then CBR puncture strength, permittivity and transmittivity, and apparent opening size. So these are the values reported as per ASTM methods by the manufacturers. So these are the materials specification. So we have to check this sheet whether it suits our requirement or not. If it doesn't suit, then the different variety of geotextile we have to select for a particular purpose in the field. So this is again different PR30 grade geotextile having different results as per the earlier one. So this way the manufacturer shows the specification of the materials based on which we can select our suitable material for a particular purpose in the field. Thank you. So these were the important tests which normally performed in the geotextile. Any question or any confusion? To summarize in brief, actually, yeah, please.
So actually, I wanted to ask that there was a term temperature correction factor. So in the lab, we encounter certain temperature, and in the field, it is different. So how we apply this temperature correction factor?
The temperature correction factor is applied in the case of permeability. See, permeability test is never performed in the field. Basically, what is the purpose of this temperature correction factor means because water is being used for the permeability test, maybe cross plane or in plane. So the density of water immediately change with the change in the slide temperature. Like standard temperature is 27 degrees centigrade. For density is 1 gram per cc for the water. So if it like in Jaisalmer in Rajasthan, you are using the temperature is 52, and you are applying your material there for the particular purpose of suppose permittivity like cross plane, then obviously the density of the water which is going to flow in that direction will definitely change. So to simulate that field conditions, we have to perform those tests at means we have to apply that much of correction factor. How much water will flow means the permeability will change. Permittivity in case of water having temperature of environmental temperature of 52 degrees centigrade will be different than the 27 degrees centigrade. See, so that's why we have to apply this correction as per the requirement of the temperature, because flow condition will change.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mohan, anything else?
Hello.
Sir,
This temperature correction for permeability is exactly the same thing as we do in soils.
yes, sir.
There's no difference between that and this. Actually, if you see any standard laboratory manual,
Yes.
for example, you look at the soil testing by T.W. Lamb, one of the fundamental books now, or any other book you got with you, that whole table is there, which simply corrects the flow condition, as you said, based upon the change in the viscosity of the material, density and viscosity of the material. So there's no difference because water flow is there, whether in soils or in geotest, it's going to be the same thing only. Okay?
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
Anil, you have not described in detail the wide width tensile strength test. Have you discussed the laser and other things?
No, actually, that I have forgot.
And also, grab you mentioned at the beginning. Grab you didn't describe. You want to do that orally? You can just say.
Yeah, I will just explain graph. Sir, in the graph tensile strength, this is index test. Again, basically the purpose of all the tests to determine the breaking load and elongation in the particular specified test conditions. Basically, in this case, a rectangular test specimen is subjected to tensile load. The size of the specimen is 100 mm width, as well as gauge total sample length is 200 mm, while gauge length is 75 mm and 50 mm on both sides for the gripping and the grips. So the test apparatus is again same tensile strength UTM machine, and clamps are almost same. The only thing is that at a sampling at a distance of 37 mm from the edge of the specimen, a line is drawn on both the edges of the specimen running in full length. Then for woven and reinforced non-woven fabrics, the line must be accurately parallel to the lengthwise yarns in the specimen, means perpendicular, means parallel to the sample edge. Then the distance between the clamps are set as per the norm, means like 75 plus minus 1 mm as per the gauge length required. Then the machine is set to operate the rate of loading again 300 plus minus 10 mm per minute. And then specimen is inserted in the clamps, and then again we have to check the breaking load and as well as elongation. Only thing is that we have to put a line on in this. That is the only difference in the graph test. Otherwise, the rest of the procedure in the UTM is same.
You're talking about grab.
Yes, sir. I talked about graph.
No, the grip is different in this case. The grip actually will be a rectangular grip. The sample is not held by a normal grip.
Yeah.
It is, it's just holding it as though you are holding at fingertips actually, on both sides.
Yes, sir.
It is grabbed. That's why it's called grab test. It's not. It is dissimilar to the narrow or strip tensile test and wide width tensile test, because there In both these wide width and narrow, the whole specimen is held on both sides. You have clear gauge length. In this case, there are only grips which are rectangular or square. I don't remember now. Something like 25 by 25 mm, something that is there, or 50 by 50 mm. I don't remember the size. But
Yeah.
basically, it's held partly only. It is
Yes,
held
sir.
partly at the top and partly at the bottom. I can show tomorrow a sketch on that so that you will understand more. This graph tensile strength test is, has been used and continues to be used in America actually as a quality control test. Whereas in Europe, particularly Germany and all, and UK also, they were using the strip tensile test. The difference was, as I mentioned in the class the other day, there were variations between, some countries used to adopt 25 millimeters as a width, and some countries adopted 50 millimeters as width now. Some changes are there depending upon the, rate of deformation also. So that was the kind of narrow strip was what is used for quality control by the textile industry. Whereas when you go to America, they were using the grab tensile strength, this one now. Now grab we still teach, not as a quality control unless you want to import from America, for trying to find out the extension of anything at all. Actually, I will describe this in pavement. In pavement, it produces a field condition. So that is where we will do that. I mean, if pavement is held, if the geotextile is held between the aggregate and the subsoil now, how it is held between the two stones is reproduced by the grab tensile test. So Professor Kanner has recommended this test also as a quality control test. And for us, for ISO and all, the graph tensile test is not a quality control test now. Okay. And this also raises another issues actually, because America follows its own methods of doing it now. Germany follows its own standards. We, let's say, have our own standards now. So then the interoperability of the testing is not there. And also, if you want to export to America, let us say, then you have to export in their terms only. Let us say graph tensile test. Okay. So when you're importing also, you have to do that. If supposing your specification doesn't include graph tension, obviously you can't import from America, or you can't exchange with. So these, what we call as interoperability standards is coming in on the way. That is why the ISO has come up and saying that there is a universal kind of method of test actually. Okay, we'll discuss more on this later. But Dr. Anil has given a just overview of all the testing, the wide width and the narrow strip, and he has given the permeability. I think friction he has not done, probably thought it's not important at this juncture. You got slides on friction also?
Yeah.
Anil?
Yes, sir.
अभी टाइम हो तो फिर वो भी दो दिन दिखा देना, just to tell them.
I will just show. So this is the evaluation of interface friction between geosynthetics and soil as per the modified direct shear test. The codal provision is IS 13326 part 1 as well as ASTM D5321 and ISO 12957. The main object is to determine the coefficient of interface friction between the soil as well as geotextile or geograde, whatever be it. So this modified direct shear is also used for the soil versus soil interface friction. Here we are using the same equipment with the soil as well as with the geosynthetics, like in here today in this context is geotextile. Is also known as modified direct shear technique. In this, we have a large direct shear box having 300 mm by 300 mm size. This is the schematic as well as actual diagram showing this is the 300 mm by 300 mm. Loading plate is there. Vertical actuator through which we have to put vertical load, and the horizontal actuator which shearing is there. So upper box, lower box. We have to put a kind of wooden block bottom way and then put a geotextile over there. Then you have to fill the required soil. Then we have to shear it and by through horizontal actuator, and how much friction is coming on that we have to note. So this way, like this is the procedure. We have to put the top half of the shear box with soil, then bottom half of with the wooden box over which you have to put our geotextile. Then you have to put water jacket container and then apply normal stress 50, 100 and 200. Similar method, rate of deformation will be 0.2 mm per minute. Then we have to shearing it until the shearing load becomes constant or until a displacement of 50 mm is reached. So whichever is larger, till that we have to perform our loading continuation. And then after completion of this, then apparatus is dismantled and then we have to check we have to put another sample. So this way we can have for different 3 normal stress, we have to perform the test, one test under different normal stresses. Then calculation part is there. We have to, for each test, the ratio of peak stress versus normal stress is calculated, and the mean of the coefficient of interface friction between the type of fill and the geotextile is calculated. Is it okay, sir?
Okay then. Thank you. Thank you, Anil, and thanks to all the students. Thank you, Mohan.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye then.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.